What's good, everyone? Antonio Fletcher back at you again with another video. Today, I'm tackling a pro-choice advocate. Her name is Clear, and yes, that is how her name is pronounced in case you're wondering that it doesn't appear that way given how it's spelled. Anyway, she took a stab at someone putting forth 7 questions pro-choice advocates cannot or refuse to answer. Will she actually be able to answer them? Let's get into the video and find out how well she fares.
A commenter left me a comment recently, and it was titled 7 questions at least that pro-choice advocates cannot or will not answer. And this is a comment I got on my How Irish People Talk About Abortion video. I make a lot of videos that are an attempt to take the piss out of a current issue or current affairs or whatever, and then I get a lot of people leave a lot of really crazy comments, and it doesn't actually help the argument either side if you're mental. If you're absolutely mental, how am I supposed to debate with you? I just don't get it.
Now, I do agree where she's coming from with people saying crazy things, which doesn't help either side. However, the way you're going to see how she conducted herself in this video is going to reveal that she isn't exactly doing things to help her side either. Let's find out now, shall we?
7 questions, and I, a pro-choice advocate, am going to attempt to answer them, because why not? If you were driving and saw an overcoat on the road but were not sure if there was a body underneath it, would you drive over it or stop and check? Honestly, looking at this question seriously, I'd probably drive over it, I'll be honest with you. And it would also depend on where I am, because I've been told not to stop for things on the side of the road because it's people trying to rape you or whatever. Sure, listen, you'd either immediately know there was or there wasn't, and if I thought there was obviously a human in it, I'd stop, and if I didn't, then I'd run over it.
Or, the sensible thing to do if you're not sure yet want to maintain your safety at the same time is to attempt to call the authorities. In the overwhelming majority of places you're not on the road, you'll be able to reach somebody. If your phone is dead or isn't getting a signal at your current location, then you should take note of the location and drive to the nearest place until you can use and charge your phone again and call the authorities then. But outright ignoring it and doing nothing isn't an ethical option, as you don't know if there could be a corpse there. I may very well be wrong in this, but it doesn't really seem like she took the question very seriously at all and even laughed after she read it. She's already off to a terrible start.
If you were pregnant and had morning sickness, would you take a would you take a thalidomide pill? Surely your bodily anatomy would take precedence. I don't really know what they mean there. The thalidomide pill was a sleeping pill marked as a mild sleeping pill safe for even pregnant women, and it caused thousands of babies worldwide to be born with malformed limbs, which is now known as the thalidomide disaster. No, I wouldn't take a sleeping pill that could maim my unborn child because I've had morning sickness. Obviously, I'd take a morning sickness pill that would maim my unborn child.
First of all, it's pronounced thalidomide, and it's a good question. Second of all, it seems yet again she's not taking the question seriously at all and would rather engage in sarcasm regarding a very serious issue. She is slipping, and fast.
If scientists came up with a test that could detect a gay gene, would it be okay to abort for that reason? In China and India, they practice gendercide, so surely this should not be a problem. I don't think you can say, oh, but they do it in China, so it's okay. See, people on the left don't think being gay is wrong. It's only people on the right. And it's people on the right that think abortion is wrong, and people on the left are pro-choice. It would really only be the people on the right who would be wanting to abort children because of the gay gene. Interesting conundrum. You might have to get back to me on that one.
Is she serious? Is she serious? Where do I even begin destroying this nonsense? Okay, first of all, she just outright generalized people on the right being against homosexuality. Identifying as the right does not mean you are against homosexuality. There is a such thing as gay people, yet who hold to conservative or libertarian views which typically identify with those on the right. Second of all, being against homosexuality does not mean you are against gay people. That simply means you don't agree and support their behavior. It seems to me that many people on the left have a difficult time separating behavior and the individual themselves. Unless, of course, you're talking about Islam, then it's what radical Muslims do has nothing to do with Muslims or Islam. They only seem to separate behavior from individuals when it's most convenient, then arbitrarily changing it up all of a sudden to call people bigots for simply disagreeing with them. Third of all, I've heard of no one on the right talking about making it okay to kill the unborn in the womb if a gay gene was discovered. I've heard of nobody on the right saying that. She literally pulled that crap out the sky, citing absolutely no facts to back up her nonsense. There may be some kook fringe extremists who would say that crap, but they are not representative of the overall majority of pro-lifers on the right. And fourth and lastly, she did not even answer the question at all. All she did here was simply do a pathetic diversion to those on the right based on absolutely no facts at all. This chick is beyond pathetic and sad. She claims to be quote-unquote answering questions a pro-choice advocate cannot or refuses to answer, yet so far she either hasn't treated any questions she's come across seriously or she hasn't answered the question at all. She's literally making a point for the person who came up with those questions. Do people not see how this lady has conducted herself like a total joke? This was so bad. My friends, it really was that bad. Moving on, this is stupid.
If a woman gives birth and discovers that it is a rapist's child and not hers, would it be okay to kill the born child? Okay, where do I start with this one? It would still be her child? No, it's not okay to kill a born child. That's a total false equivocal. If a woman gives birth and discovers it's not her child, like, people who leave comments on my videos sometimes I think are like terminally dumb.
Interesting, because the way you're sounding right now, Clear, you're not doing too much better in that department as the people you say sound terminally dumb. You claim it's a false equivalency between the born and the unborn, but this means that if you consistently apply that logic, then you'd have to support even late-term abortion for any reason as well. If you want to argue that logic to its maximal consistency, will you claim somebody is making a false equivalency late-term? Or does that progression of pregnancy magically mean it's not a false equivalency in its latest stages? Now, she actually comments on late-term abortion later in the video, which I will show how she falls further into absurdity and self-contradictory nonsense. But to get back to the current point, your fellow liberals, by the way, Clear, now former President of the United States Barack Obama and former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton both support infanticide to babies born who survive abortions. Both of these people voted against bills to protect babies born alive through failed abortion attempts. So are you now going to claim it's a false equivalency for them? Peter Singer, a well-known bioethics professor, has also argued for infanticide, and from what I can tell, he has not been widely criticized and denounced by well-known liberal outlets, organizations, and or individuals who also identify as pro-choice. The loudest voices against him are right-leaning groups, not left-leaning ones, Clear. If you're going to claim something is a false equivalency, then perhaps you need to check out why many leading voices on your side seem to be silent about these well-known liberals outright supporting infanticide. Now, I will say that silence does not necessarily prove support or opposition to something. That is an argument from silence. But in cases like these in which you would like to expect leading liberal voices to outright denounce support of infanticide and have not, it begs the question if they are truly against infanticide at all. Let's go on to her next epic fail, my friends.
I was born at 30 weeks and my sister at 40 weeks. If abortion on demand was legalized, why would I have more right to life than her? What? No joke. That question is so stupid that it actually hurts my eyeballs to read it. Has a 10-year-old more right to life than a 10-month-old? No, they've equal, like they're both alive already. It's a total false equivocal to say that a clump of cells is the same as a born child, and like it doesn't matter how kind of emotionally manipulative you want to be about 10-year-olds and 10-month-olds. Removing a group of cells from your uterus is not the same thing, and it's a total false equivocal to say that it is. It's really emotionally manipulative, and the thing is, most pro-life people couldn't give a flying fuck about born children anyway.
You know, I would be laughing right now at her outrageous levels of absurdity and outright garbage logic if this were a different subject. She claims that the issue of removing what she says is a clump of cells is a false equivocation, no matter how much a pro-lifer tries to emotionally manipulate the issue. But guess what? Emotion in the argument is a two-way street. She complains about pro-lifers allegedly attempting to emotionally manipulate the issue, but that's literally the same thing a lot of pro-aborts do. They attempt to center emotion onto the woman using arguments like she may not be able to afford having a child, the child may not be born into a stable home, and she shouldn't have to shoulder that burden, that she shouldn't have to bear the burden of a child with medical problems detectable in the womb, etc. It's quite convenient she doesn't want to address when their side endlessly engages in emotion, and if you don't agree with them, you're a bigot, which is also emotion, not logic. And even worse, she states with absolutely no facts that pro-lifers don't care about born children, as if she could read the minds of all pro-lifers, or most of them at least. And she has the nerve to accuse others of emotional manipulation? When you base your position on absolutely no facts, you are literally left with only emotion, not logic. Seriously, what is wrong with this woman? She completely pulled that claim clear out the sky with absolutely nothing backing it up. Her arrogance and condescending demeanor is so sickening, it should be frightening to any sane-thinking individual. Let's see how she continues to trip over herself even more.
But because you mentioned 30 weeks and 40 weeks, and because you said abortion on demand, and then said you'd have more right to life than your sister, I'm assuming what you're getting at is that abortion on demand would be available for people after they were 30 weeks pregnant. In that case, you're fucking so wrong. For example, these are the stats that are readily available to me on the Google machine. They're available to you too. In 2012 in Australia, only 2% of abortions were performed after 20 weeks. And of those 96 abortions in the whole year, 53 of them were due to fetal abnormality. So stop it with your false equivocals, because actually your arguments are just so easy to break down with fact that it's satirical.
It is absolutely beyond hilarious she has the nerve to claim she's breaking down arguments with facts. First of all, not all countries even have the same laws on abortion. For example, in the United States, it is in fact not unusual to see abortions happening after 20 weeks. In fact, under a ruling which occurred years ago called Doe v. Bolton, the justification for late-term abortion under medical justification in regards to health was so vague and ambiguous that any sort of definition of health, including mental health, justifies abortion at any time in pregnancy for any reason, as long as you can simply get an OBGYN medical professional abortionist to sign off on it. And in places like Maryland here in the United States, you don't even need approval to get an abortion in certain periods after 20 weeks. In fact, they happen quite often routinely, even around weeks like 26 to 28 weeks. Second of all, she didn't even cite the source in her claim in her video description. Even worse, third of all, I checked for abortion statistics in Australia, and guess what I found? Take a look at this. Okay, now if you see here where it says Australian abortion statistics, it says there is no standardized national data collection on unplanned pregnancy and abortion in Australia, and different states have different laws and regulations, and therefore different reporting mechanisms regarding abortion procedures. Now, how can she possibly back up this claim of hers when there is no national data collection even available? And please note this as well, my friends. This is not a pro-life source saying this. This is a pro-choice source stating this. So it's not like I got this from a pro-life website, which technically wouldn't matter anyway, as to argue against something simply because where it originates is the genetic fallacy. But this shuts down even the attempt to use the genetic fallacy because the pro-choice site backs up my argument. But wait, my friends, it gets even worse for her. Even if it could be proven that abortions don't happen very often late term in Australia and or are illegal, it would not prove it's a false equivalency to compare the born to the unborn. All it would prove is that she centers her position based on what the laws and policies are. Therefore, she would necessarily have to change her position if the laws and policies change to allowing late-term abortion. But if in fact she does not center her argument upon what the laws and policies say, then it was literally a waste of time for her to cite what happens in Australia in regards to late-term abortion from the outset to begin with. She would have literally made an irrelevant argument. Heck, her argument is still irrelevant as it stands because she didn't prove a false equivocation. She instead distracted with a red herring on policy and did not address the moral issue of rights, which is what the question was asking about. She seriously has to be one of the most self-destructive individuals I've ever done a video about. Let's continue on and destroy her nonsense once more.
Did a woman ever give birth to anything other than a baby? I am sure that they did. Woman gives birth to something that's not, to something that doesn't look human. I knew someone has already Googled this. Woman gives birth to a frog. 2004, the Daily Mail. Ew, a mother of two has apparently given birth to a live frog with human features. It is claimed it grew from a larva which found its way into the woman's body as she swam in a dirty pool. Ugh, that is disgusting. Ugh. So there you go. According to those unverified reports, a woman gave birth to a frog. So yes, a woman has given birth to anything other than a baby. Next question.
Everybody, can we please have a moment of silence for her outright continued stupidity? Thank you. And now we return to our regularly scheduled programming. We obviously aren't talking about a case in which a larvae got into her body and somehow survived the conditions in her body to develop. We are talking about when normal human development of the unborn happens, there is a baby every time. Certain abnormal exceptions or occurrences do not defeat the rule. She continues to show her outright stupidity and is really just adding her own insult to hospitalization. Notice I said adding insult to hospitalization, not adding insult to injury, because her other impalpable lunacy is way off the charts. She continues to prove she's not approaching these questions in any serious manner or any sincere manner, thus isn't really answering anything at all. Like I said earlier, she has proven the point for the person who came up with those questions. Questions the pro-choice advocate won't or can't answer. It's almost over, my friends. We're at the home stretch of finishing this outright obliteration of her nonsense.
Question 7. What is this? Is it a baby or a frog? In the case of the last question, it was a frog. So there you go. Those are 7 questions that pro-choice advocates cannot or will not answer. Answered for you by a pro-choice advocate.
Folks, this is one of the dumbest videos I've ever seen in my life. She wasn't really answering anything and wasn't even approaching what is a very serious issue seriously at all. She even outright dodged the question entirely and had the nerve to claim she answered the questions. I'm so glad this other lunacy is over. You can clearly tell her ego is so inflated that her ability to think logically has been severely hindered, at least in this case. Let's have one more moment of silence for her absurdity before we end this video. That's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, God bless, and peace.